Okay. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Welcome to Creating Possibilities. So, this is a series of conversations that I'm having with a variety of entrepreneurs, of people who I think are really inspiring, who have inspired me. So, I'm Rose from Latham Life Coaching, and one of the ways that I'm networking is to connect with people, and particularly entrepreneurs, because as one myself, I just find that as a group, we are so full of ideas and inspiration. And it's also about building community for me and for each other that I think is so important. What I would love to explore with you today is this whole series is about how to bring impossible dreams into reality by taking creative, courageous action. And that's like, as entrepreneurs, I think we're doing this and we don't always take the time to pause and reflect on our journey, but it can also be hugely inspiring for other people to hear what is possible when you start putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there's this danger that people just see some end result and think it happened overnight. So I would love just if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we'll dive into a bit about your journey.
Okie dokie. So my name is Rachel Smith and my company is called Clutter is the Enemy, because we all know it is. So basically I created my own job, just dreamt it up one day and said, this is what I'm going to do. So I am a declutterer, an interior designer and a home stager. So everything I do is about making people happier in their spaces.
Yeah, love that. And I love that you dreamt up your job as well, which is amazing, which I think actually is one of the reasons I really wanted to speak to you here. So I wonder if you could take us back to before you dreamt your job up, or what the kind of your journey was to the point where you dreamt up your job. Like, what were you doing before you created this work for yourself?
Okay, so I think my life has been sort of a life of two halves, as quite often people's are. Up until sort of 30, I was a bit of an adventurer, lived abroad, did various different things, just threw myself into anything, bought one-way tickets and just went off and lived my life and just didn't really care. It was great having zero responsibilities. The only thing that I owned were books. They kind of went everywhere with me, and everything else really didn't seem to matter because I was just about doing what I needed to do at the time, and I had a great time. And then got a mortgage. That's kind of where it all changed. The adult responsibilities that come with having a mortgage and then getting married and then having children. And I think I put that former me just in a little box and shut the lid. And I don't think I knew that I was doing it. It was just one of those things, sort of my life had shifted. I was happy to have the responsibility. I mean, me and my husband were actually happy to have a mortgage. And I think we're the only people in the world who were just like, yay, a mortgage. Let's chain ourselves to the bank for 25 years. Because we'd both come from a similar background. So this was the first time we'd kind of put down some serious permanent roots. And it was together and we were happy to be doing this. And we literally, when we moved into our house, we had zero things. So we just both had books. That was the only thing. And so sort of the life of an adult began. And I got into the corporate world, and as you do, just go from one job to the next. And I think just my focus was on my family and my relationship, and kind of not on me anymore, because I think at that point, when I looked at my previous life, I thought, I'd kind of been a bit selfish because I was just doing whatever I wanted. When really it wasn't selfish, because I didn't have anybody else to think about. I was just doing what I wanted to do, and whatever I did, it didn't affect anybody else. It was just me following my dreams and doing whatever I wanted to do. But now I had like these three other people that I needed to think about. And I think a lot of women particularly we put ourselves then to the back of the queue, because we put everybody's needs, everybody's wants, everybody's time in front of ourselves, and we leave ourselves with nothing. And we feel that mum guilt if you even spend a couple of hours like with a friend, or you go shopping on your own, you feel guilty about it. And we don't see that as a form of self-care, which we should. And nobody is encouraging us to do that more and more, because everybody's just taking from us, and we need that time to kind of recharge and give back to ourselves so that we can give to everybody else. But I think that's not something you realize until sort of 10 years down the line. And it's sort of a crucial part of women's existence, that we need to just give ourselves the time so that we can be the best version of ourselves. So anyway, I digress. I got into the corporate world, and I've always worked sort of in the print industry, and it was kind of a bit creative. I had a bit of creative license, but all my friends used to say, oh, you're completely wasted, you need to be doing something more creative. And my response was always, oh, well, I'm not that creative, really. And they always said, oh, really? Do you remember when you did this, when you did this, when you did this? And sort of giving me examples of things I used to do when I was younger that I'd forgotten about and that had gone into this box because I didn't have the time. Like, who has the time for hobbies when you've got little kids? And, you don't have time to, it's almost sort of decadent to have a hobby and spend that time doing something you want to do. And so I think I'd just forgotten, and I kind of squashed who I was a little bit. And I think that a lot of women, when they get to late 30s, early 40s, and they think, oh, okay, so I've managed to bring like humans into the world, I can literally do anything. And so it kind of, I think it's like a slow revelation, and you start thinking about, actually, who am I now, or who was I that I still am? I don't think we necessarily change that much. I think we just forget a little bit about who we were before and who we still are, because we haven't lost any of that. You just need to remember. And this was one of the things that one of my interiors clients said to me. She'd going through this process, and we were like redecorating a room, and she said, it's not been, the process and the learning that I found most interesting. It's just, you've made me remember who I am. And that was such a powerful thing for somebody to say. But equally, I've made me remember who I am also, because by doing something now that I absolutely love, and that marries all my best skills and all my personality traits, I am the best version of me. And therefore, I can give everybody else the best version of me. And I think it's just allowing yourself to be more you is the best thing that you can do. But also very difficult. Very, very difficult. And especially when you're in a corporate, often negative environment. I hear of so many people who've worked for toxic bosses, and they've worked in a toxic workplace. And it's when you work for yourself, you realize that there's like a whole parallel universe that's run by people who are nice and that have a moral compass, and that are there to lift each other up instead of squash each other down. And for a lot of people, when they're working in this toxicity, they can't see it, because they're in it and they think there's no escape and they think there's no way out. But I think if more people started talking about this community and this whole other world, it might encourage more people to just, take a peek above the parapet and just see. Because people are told, they're kept in little boxes, and they're told, oh no, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't do the other. But what I've found working for myself is, there are no limits, and I refuse to give myself those self-limiting beliefs. And I just think, well, actually I can do anything, because there's nobody there that's telling me, well, actually no, you can't.
Thank you. Yeah, like so much of what you've shared in there is so resonates, but also so inspiring, I think, of your journey and like how you've experienced it. And I love that part you said about being the best version of you, and almost like reconnecting back to who you were. But a lot of it's about giving yourself permission, isn't it? And creating
Absolutely.
a space so you can give yourself permission, or even allowing yourself the possibility of giving yourself permission.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a really good overview of the before. So what was the dream that you kind of created then? So I can hear that what you've moved into.
Yeah.
What did that look like? How did it start? And sort of what other benefits have you found for yourself?
So I think it started a few years ago. I started doing an interior design course whilst I was still working, because it was something that I was interested in, and the kids were getting a bit older and I did have a little bit of time. And so I just, studied when they were in bed, and it was just something that I absolutely loved. And it was just another sort of little outlet that was just for me, and I really enjoyed it. And I found it all really easy, which was a sign, I think. And because we also get so hung up on having to have qualifications and having to have a piece of paper and having to have a portfolio of stuff and having to have referrals and having to have all these things, that it puts people off trying.
It's actually other people's validation, isn't it? Other people. Yeah.
It puts people off trying to do something new, because they just say, oh, I can't. I mean, I tried it. I tried moving sectors when I was working for other people, and it was impossible. I was getting second interviews, third interviews, and always got pipped at the post by somebody who had more experience. And it's like, well, you knew that when you looked at my CV. Why did you put me through this entire process to just go, oh yeah, sorry, the other person's got it because they've got experience and you haven't. And it's just, everything was just so negative, and just everybody's saying no all the time. Whereas actually now I did do the studying for my diploma, and then I started practicing in people's houses, and people had always asked me anyway. I was always like the go-to, oh, can you just help me choose this wall color, and can you just tell me what to do with this room, and no. And I knew I could do it. And so once I started putting myself out there, and once people started talking to me, they knew that I knew what I was talking about. Because it's obvious, because when your eyes are shining and that energy, you're bringing the energy, then they just know. And not one person, not one of my clients has ever said, can you please show me your diploma? Because I'm not going to give you the job until I've seen that you've got a piece of paper. And not one person has said, I need to see a portfolio of your designs. Not one, because they trust in this person, and they trust in what I'm saying, and they can see that I am a genuine individual, and they can see that I'm helping them to solve their problem.
And do you think that it's also because what I really get from you when I've spoken to you, and also in this, is that you really trust yourself as well?
Yeah.
Because there's a big part of that sort of loop between trusting yourself and then, do you believe that it starts with you and then that's kind of what it comes out, or is it just a kind of ebb and flow of the two? Like, you trust yourself, they trust you, which means you trust yourself more, or
I think
is it chicken and egg? Like, how does that work for you?
I think there's a lot of feeding both ways, but also it took me a while to realize that some of my abilities are actually, it's like a gift.
So tell us about that, your superpowers, because I think these are really lovely.
That people else don't. And it's, it's just like, some people can do maths, some people can speak languages, And it's just, that's the way your brain works.
Mm.
And I actually learned a couple of weeks ago, I put a post out about having vision. So we've all spoken to people who have vision, and we've all spoken to people who haven't got vision, whether you know it or not. And my post was about being able to see an idea in front of you. So quite often I'll be in somebody's house and I'll be trying to explain, you know, how the room's going to look, and I'm kind of running around and going, and this is going to look like this, and this will look like this, no. And one day this lady was stood there and she's like, you can see this, can't you? And I was like, yeah, it's like I've got, you know, internal VR goggles and I'm looking at what I'm describing. And she's like, yeah, I can't see any of that. and so I, you know, part of my job is putting into images what is in my head and what is in their hearts. So it's kind of, I mean, we know we are linguists, and it is another form of translation. Design is another form of language. It's a form of communication, and people just don't have the words. So it's about giving them the words, but also giving them the images, because some people can't see it. Now, there is a scientific reason why some people have no mental imagery. So I get clients all the time where one half of a partnership is going mad with the other, because they're like, I've explained it so many times, and I've said to her, this is what's happening, and I've said to him, this is what's happening, and he just doesn't get it. And it's like, they literally can't see it, because it's a thing called anaphasia, which means you don't have mental imagery. You can't see anything. So if I said to you, imagine a horse running along a beach.
Okay.
So I see the horse, I see like the shine on its coat, I see the flank moving, I see its nostrils flaring, see the mane waving, hear the hooves thudding, the sand flying up, the waves crashing behind it. I get the whole like 4D film with all the sounds and all the images. Some people might see a horse on a beach. Some people might see the outline of a horse. And some people will see nothing. So it goes from anaphasia, which is not having any mental imagery whatsoever, which I think is only about 3% of the population. And then there's hyperphasia at the other end, which is I'm towards that end where I have full multicolor imagery. So it's just how your brain's wired. There's so many things, there's so many parts of your brain that have a part to play in this sort of mental imagery thing. And it's just fascinating. And I found this out because somebody who'd read one of my posts, his wife's neuropsychologist.
Okay.
And she'd done a study on it. And it's just really interesting that, you know, no two people see things in the same way. And so half of what I do is sort of being an intermediary between two people and saying, okay, well, this person sees it like this person sees it like this. So you two need to talk about this. And it's just, you know, it's just helping people envisage what we're trying to get to, which is something that, you know, everything I do is about people and it's about psychology. But I think I'd underestimated sort of just how much it would be about helping the people, because it's not just about a transformation of the spaces, it's about a transformation of the people, because I'm helping people to be happier in their own homes. And quite often there's various blockers that are stopping them, and one of them is this communication thing, that these two people who live in this house, whenever there's emotions involved in anything, it just makes people freeze, and they're either paralyzed by fear of getting it wrong, or they're paralyzed by not being able to communicate with each other, so they just don't bother. Or, you know, there's so many different things. And it's like, you know, I'm not a trained counselor, I'm not a psychologist, but these are things, I'm an empath, and these are things that naturally I understand. and that naturally I know how to navigate, because all of my life experience, I've been the foreigner in the foreign land, and I've had to understand people's body language, and I've had to understand the underlying subtext, and I've had to understand, you know, what surrounds it. And one of my skills is to be able to see things holistically and bring people along the journey. Even, you know, the people who at the beginning of any process say, yeah, I'm not interested, you just do it. You know, they need to be involved, and at some point there will be an objection, and that objection needs to be dealt with. And it's just a lack of understanding. So if you go back to the beginning and explain to these people and bring them into the process, then it just makes everything easier. And actually it's making their lives as a couple easier, and then, you know, it has a ripple effect on everybody else in the house. And so just from what seems like a simple thing of you know, helping people choose a paint color, it's actually much more than that. You know, behind that, you know, lack of indecision, there's reasons why, and it's kind of looking at how that happens and how you can solve it.
And it's just so amazing hearing how beautifully you describe this, like your reflections, because what I hear is that you looking back and you're really able to articulate so well the skills that you're bringing and that you're sharing with people, which isn't necessarily the things that people come to you about, is it? It's like, that's the happy byproduct, but actually that's where the transformation happens. And that's I think that's why I love hearing about what you do, because there's so many parallels to coaching in here about people come to you for X, but actually what you give them is Y, Z, and A and B.
Yeah.
And X is like the happy byproduct at the end, you know, and often it's a happier, that people are happier in their career. But yours is like, they'll get a really beautiful room, but at the same time, all these other things are going on. I wonder, what's kind of interesting is, I think if people are at the beginning of an entrepreneur journey, because looking back, that thinking about all of that now, if you were thinking about that all at the beginning, that might have been quite overwhelming.
Absolutely. And it's been,
how did you start? What was your sort of first step?
Really? It's been something that's just happened as the journey's gone on. I mean, my entire business was based on home staging when I started.
Right.
And my business has evolved. I've evolved because pandemic and, you know, everything else. If you need to be adaptable in life anyway, but I think especially as an entrepreneur and a self-employed person, you need to be adaptable, because, you know, life doesn't always go as you plan. And, you know, you just don't know where the bumps in the road are going to come. And, you know, sometimes people get very set on having a plan and you know, working to this plan and sort of having 5-year goals and 10-year goals. And
what would you say to those people then?
Life
from
doesn't
this
work that way. I think if you're too rigid, you're really setting yourself up for disappointment, because it won't be like that. And it shouldn't be like that, because when you start off your journey as somebody who's self-employed, you don't know what you're capable of, and it's a constant learning curve. And you go from having imposter syndrome in the beginning, because you think, oh, I can't possibly do this, because, you know, how can I call myself this when, you know, I've never really done it before. And then you get over that, and then you think, oh, well, actually I've done that now, so what else could I do? And then it's kind of that energy and the confidence just keeps building and building. And now I'm in a situation where I just say yes and then worry about it afterwards. And that was another thing that I'd kind of forgotten, because if you'd have asked me 2 years ago, are you a risk taker, I would have said no.
Which is, I just want to pause you there, because it's really interesting when you were sharing your journey about the 4 children. That's what my kind of was going through my mind, just like, some people would see that as very risky. Some of those, particularly that one-way ticket.
Yeah.
I mean, that's quite like high risk in
Oh,
this,
yeah.
like in a particular,
I've
certain
done some
stratas of
very high
society.
risk things in
Yeah.
my life.
But so this, you've had that's part of you, but then
but then the mortgage me was very not high risk because mortgage and children and just having to calm it down a bit. And but it's, you know, now that's me again. You know, it's still me, it's just a different version of me. But it's actually the real me, and it's the me that has never been bothered what anybody thinks, and the me that's just followed my own, you know, danced to my own little tune. And the world of possibilities is so huge that if you have a fixed plan, you might just miss out on the thing that makes you the happiest.
Oh my gosh, that's your quote. Isn't it? That's beautiful. Sit with that a second. The world of possibilities is so great. Is that it? So vast. Yeah, and that's amazing.
When you realize that there's a whole community of people who are just like you, and it's, you know, it's about finding your tribe. And, you know, social media is there to be a quick way to find your friends, because when you've got a certain set of skills and nobody around you in your sort of circle has those skills or understands what it is, you need to find people that do. And so social media is like the playground. You know, you can go and meet your people, and it doesn't matter where they live, you know, as long as, you know, they're on the end of a computer or they're on the end of a phone, it doesn't matter. You know, we're at opposite ends of the country, but that's not going to stop us being friends, because there's something that links us. And it's that something that I'm not going to find outside my front door, because it's just not there. So to go looking elsewhere for it, this is why having, you know, all these networking things is just the best thing, because you're finding people who are like you, and it brings you together. And the people that network and the people that are doing it from the same place as we are, it's about lifting people up and helping people, and, you know, just introducing people, because why not? You know, and it's just about being a nice person and not giving to receive. You're just being nice. And I think you get it rammed down your throat that there's no point being nice in business, because you don't get anywhere. It's not the nice people that get the promotions. It's not the nice people, the loyal people who get the rewards. And it can make you all bitter and twisted. But when you realize that actually in the other, it's like Stranger Things, in the upside down world, the upside down world of entrepreneurs, everybody is nice.
Everyone's got each other's back. We're kind of looking out for each other. So what does this mean then? Because it's, thank you so much for sharing all of that, because I think there's so many nuggets in there of like how you've grown, and almost like signposting people to what you've created for yourself. And I'm curious, because I get a real sense when we talk that you're really open to, well, you've said it very clearly, like that anything is possible. The only person or thing that gets in the way is you, or your thoughts, or your mindset, or whatever. So what do you want to create for yourself intentionally now for your future? What do you see in your business or in your life that you'd like to move towards, that you're taking steps towards right at this moment?
I don't have any big plans. I just have plans just to help more people. Just whatever I do, I just want to do more of it, because we can all be busier. We all need to be busier. We all need to have pipelines and all those boring things. But for me, it's being able to have enough work so that I can really live my life as I want to live it, without having to think about things, because obviously the first few years of owning your business, I mean, it's hard, and financially, you know, you've got to crawl before you can walk, and you've got to walk before you can run, and it's kind of a slow kind of trajectory. So for me, it's just to carry on what I'm doing, but to enable me to live a life that I want to live. And I mean by that, just have more time for myself and go off with my friends and, you know, do the things that energize me. Yeah, we went away recently to Madrid without the children, and that was another time of me remembering who I am, and it was a different me.
Yeah.
And I want to see more of that me, and because my relationship will be better for it. I can better, you know, give an example to my kids for it, and just, you know, give that time to myself, because that's not selfish.
Yeah.
That's because we're told, oh no, it's too selfish, you can't do that, you know, spending too much time without your kids and your husband. And it's like, no, you need that to sort of recharge your soul and just have that inner peace to then be able to go and serve other people.
Love that. Absolutely. Re-energizing. Absolutely. To continue to be able to serve. That's just like, it's very powerful, and it's clearly something that is a very core value to you and to your brand and to what you do as an entrepreneur, and that will show up in so many aspects of your life. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for sort of sharing what could have been viewed as an impossible dream from the start of a mortgage, but how you've created it and through all the courageous actions you've taken. And I wonder if you had any key message for someone that was considering either becoming an entrepreneur or working in your sort of area, interior design, or that kind of arena, because you're kind of moved, I think you cross over quite a lot of different sectors, if you like.
Yeah.
What would your key message be to someone who is starting out or considering making a change or a leap?
First one would be do it. If you can do, I mean, I was pushed because I was made redundant, so I didn't really have the chance to do any planning and sort of financial planning. It's like going on maternity leave. If you've got a time where you can kind of build up a safety net, then that's a good idea. Because just jumping in with both feet, not knowing what the hell you're doing, it's okay. But if you cannot do that, then better. So yeah, I would say if you can plan a little bit beforehand, and you can give yourself, you know, if you can start like a side hustle and, you know, see how it goes for a while before you jump in with both feet, then yeah, definitely do that. But also I would say if you really, really hate your job, and it's really affecting your mental health, and it's affecting your family life, and it's affecting other things, then jump ship and do something, because money is obviously, everybody needs money, and especially now it's super difficult in every sort of walk of life. Everybody's struggling, but your mental health and your happiness is so much more important. And you know, it's not often wise to leave a job without having a job, but it can be done. And if you are following your dream, and if you are following your passion, then you can do it.
Amazing. Okay, and where can people find you, Rachel?
So you can find me on Facebook under Clutter is the Enemy, or Instagram clutter_is_the_enemy, LinkedIn at Rachel Smith, and my website is www.clutteristheenemy.co.uk.
Fab. Brilliant. I'll pop all that under here when it gets published. And thank you so much for your time today, and wishing you an absolutely wonderful weekend.
And you too.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.